Hello everyone and welcome to today's Daily Splat. Now, I'd like to consider you all watching this out there friends. I mean, maybe not necessarily good friends, we hardly ever catch up anymore, but just friends nonetheless. And when it comes to friends, I generally have a rule, and that rule is that basically I never discuss religion, politics, the politics of religion, or religious politics. I tend to find talking about politics in particular to be very upsetting and quite annoying, really. Unfortunately, that isn't politics' fault, that is the fault of the politicians. I just generally don't like to weigh in. It's all a horrible mess, pretty much all of the time, and usually everybody's got some right ideas which are being corrupted by some really wrong ideas. Anyway, I normally wouldn't talk about anything like this, but it has been requested by a friend of mine, a Miss Magdalene Lum, who's a very, very good friend of mine and often comes up with, finds interesting links on Twitter that I sometimes comment on. If you want to follow her, by the way, you can follow her at ScientistMags. That's at Scientist, spelt Scientist, Mags, M-A-G-S, all one word. So yes, follow her. She's very clever, and she has some very interesting viewpoints. But she actually emailed me requesting that I talk about something that's happening in Australian politics in the last week. Now, you've probably heard there has been some bad weather in Australia lately, particularly on the east coast, where Queensland is. Now, I say that because I have had another geography fail, which I'm not going to put up as a video because it's just too depressing. We've already had a geography fail involving Queensland, which was actually this map said was only half the size it was, and the top half of Queensland was another state entirely called Cornucopia. So, yeah, and there was a map that I saw recently which had Queensland in Tasmania, so, you know, I'm just not even going to bother with CNN on that one. Anyway, so, what was my point? Yes, so we'd had some bad weather, but this particular story relates to before Cyclone Yasi came through and messed things up a bit. This was when it was just underwater, not being blown about and underwater. The leader of the opposition party, the Liberals, had a leader as a Mr. Tony Abbott, who contested the election with our current Prime Minister, the leader of the Labour Party, Miss Julia Gillard. Yes, they're the two key figures. Tony Abbott was sent out an email, and it was basically, just talking the usual political blah, 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 blah. But at the bottom of the email, it had a request for people who were reading the email, and it said, if you would like to donate funds to our fight against the Queensland flood tax levy thing. That seems very odd. You see, Julia Gillard has this plan, right, where basically, with all the floods and the cyclones, Queensland's in a bit of a state at the moment. So, what we should all do is everyone should pay some tax, extra tax, to go and help people of Queensland. Basically, $1.8 billion is the estimated figure. I'm just reading through the figures here of Julia Gillard's proposed flood levy, and it's actually potentially the wealthy workers who are going to foot the bill for the majority of it, particularly those earning more than $200,000 a year, with New South Wales and Victoria, also Australian states, being the hardest hit. So the idea with the flood levy is that people will pay money, and those in the more affluent areas will pay more. New South Wales taxpayers are going to contribute 37% of the $1.8 billion. Victorians will contribute 22%. Queensland itself will pay 17%. South Australia is going to pay 5%. Western Australia is going to pay 12%, and Tasmania 1%. But half of all taxpayers, which are those earning under $50,000 a year, won't pay a cent. So the idea is that the flood levy is going to tax the richer folk, who perhaps can afford it more. Mr. Swan, Wayne Swan, the current Treasurer of Australia, has come out and said that 6 out of 10 Australians will pay less than $1 a week for the flood levy, which seems reasonable enough, but of course, figures, adjustments and all that. We'll wait and see. But basically, Tony Abbott, leader of the Liberals, always looking for a new stick to beat his opposition leader with, to beat the current Prime Minister with, as all good opposition leaders should, because remember, that is their job. They want, for some reason, to become the Prime Minister so that then they can get beat with the sticks. That's the thing I've never understood about opposition leaders. They always seem so sadomasochistic. Anyway, he has basically come out and said, we're going to fight this flood levy. We don't want any more taxes. They're going to create a new tax. They're just trying to take your money, Australians, for something that nature did, you know? And if you would like to give us money so that you don't have to give them money, then please donate here. That doesn't work. You know, I'm sorry, but the thing is, you know, I'm not normally one like most people who thinks, oh, a new tax, that's a good idea. But when it's for, you know, a place that's just had a couple of natural disasters in a row, like literally 1 week flood, next week cyclone, you know, next week I'm expecting earthquakes or something to happen there. You know, I kind of actually agree with a flood levy type thing, you know, coming in and going, you know what, they need $1.8 billion there because the whole place has been messed up, the whole thing's thrown apart. We're lucky nobody died, you know, in the cyclone. We'd have people die in the floods, you know. I'm perfectly happy if I was earning money, sorry, if I was earning, you know, more than $50,000 a year, if I was one of the, you know, top end earners, I'd be more than happy to pay an estimated $300 in tax extra a year to go towards that. That would be the tax I'd be happiest to pay, probably, I'm thinking. Obviously, not being in that position, I can't say for sure. But it just seems a bit, like, to ask for money to fight against having to give money to help people in need just seems a bit wrong. I mean, how much money does, you know, the Liberal Party need if they're going to, you know, how much money do they need to say, don't pay the flood levy? Do they need any money at all? Isn't there some form of paperwork they can do? Aren't they currently being paid to do a job to try and stop the flood levy coming in? Can't they vote against it? Or something like that? Can't they work out a deal? Can't they, you know, talk with Julia Gillard and say, well, maybe we shouldn't be taxing people that much, you know, things like that. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I will admit, I don't like Tony Abbott that much. He's a bit of a weird dude. And it's not that I don't like him because he's weird. I don't like him because he's a bit of a, well, dick, essentially. I was thinking about not saying it, but there, I've said it. Tony Abbott is a bit of a knob. Walking around his swimming trunks. I'm not a fan of him. I don't mind the Liberal Party. They're just as bad as the Labour Party. But when it comes to the leaders, I just do not like Tony Abbott myself. He's a very, very, very strange and incompetent man when it comes to being leader of an Australian political party. He might be excellent at other things. You know, he's a great swimmer. He should focus on that. This whole flood levy idea, it's the reason that I don't like talking about politics. It gets me kind of annoyed. You know, this whole, you know... right, okay. Point is, I just feel, Mr. Abbott, that asking for money from people to do your job, to do something that you disagree with, I'm not sure that's right. I'm perfectly fine with you disagreeing that there should be a flood levy. Some people will disagree with that. Some people don't want an extra tax. Most people don't want an extra tax. You know, that's fine. But it just stinks a bit of idiocy and greed to ask for money to not help, stop us helping a place that has been recently devastated by some natural disasters. Anyway, I'm done. That's all I'm going to do today on barn politics. Yeah, so there you go, Mags. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope everyone else gained something out of it. Obviously, if you have a differing opinion, please let me know. I'll probably, just ignore it. No, I won't. I will read any opinion you want to send to me. You can contact me on Twitter. You can leave comments below if you want. Down there. I should remember to put my hands on screen when I point down. But you can just contact me on Twitter at Splatticus, spelled Splatticus. ICUS, yes, at Splatticus. That's all for today, everyone. See you tomorrow.